Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Ask Sharifah. Today's guest is very entertaining. She has a lot of information that she is going to go ahead and share with us. But before we get started, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that's to go ahead and share this video because we are live. Our guest today is live right now. This is not a recording. We are live to take your questions, to take your comments. So if you have questions or comments, please put them in the comment section and I'll read them to today's guest. So before we get started, go ahead and share this video because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. So today's guest is Ms. Audra Bryant. And Audra Bryant, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. It's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I am a singer-songwriter. I am also a burn survivor. And so I speak. I share my story and my desires to just encourage others through their process. And my platform is scars because I have scars. And so, yeah, and so that's what I've been doing is sharing my story, speaking. I will be honest, I'm also a stand-up comedian, so I have been doing that work as well.
We don't know where this is going to go because
we just gonna go ahead and be out there. We're gonna put it out there today.
I love it. This is great. But I just want to say thank you for being honest and thank you for being vulnerable because I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a long time and I've never had someone who just said, here, look at my scars, look at my pain. So many people are willing to tell you this story almost as if it happened to someone else, but you don't see the scars, you don't see the pain. What can you tell us about how, or what are you willing to tell us about how you got the scars?
So I was actually burned when I was 1.5 years. I pulled a hot cup of coffee onto myself. And I had 6 surgeries between the ages of 2 and 16. And I did not look at myself in the mirror until I was 25 because I did not want to see my scars. So showing you my scars now, I mean, it's very, very easy for me to do so. But, up until 25, I would have had a turtleneck on or a shirt like this, but you definitely never would have seen me with a V-neck or a tank top or any of that.
Oh, wow. Again, if you're just now joining us, we are talking to Audra Bryant. Arnie, thank you for joining us. Cecilia, Gary, thank you for being here with us as we take this incredible journey. Make sure, we go ahead and share this video. But Audra, you mentioned that you didn't look in the mirror until you were 25. And I'm kind of, how did you put on makeup? And this may seem, like small things, but how did you fix your hair? How did you do all these things if you didn't want to look at yourself in the mirror?
Now, the thing about my scars is that I could actually cover them up. So I could cover them up with a t-shirt, a turtleneck. For the most part, you can see a little bit of the scar on my neck, but if my hair was covering that, or if the turtleneck, of course, was covering that, I was fine. And so I could look at my face, not my neck. I could look at my face and put on my makeup and do whatever else I wanted to do. But as far as showing my body, as far as, going swimming with a swimsuit on, I would always have a t-shirt over it. Anything that could possibly show my scar, I know it was not happening.
Now, we don't want to just look at, obviously, the physical aspect of it. Let's talk a little bit about the mental aspect, because you really have to be, for lack of a better phrase, going through it, not to want to look at yourself and not, feeling these kind of emotions. And plus, you're a young child. You're going to school. You're basically your entire life. Did kids tease you? Was there bullying? Or was this something internal that you just you were hard on yourself?
That's a great question. So let's start as far back as I can really remember. I was in dance class at 3 years old. It was like a dance camp. And so in dance, I was in ballet. So we had to wear unitards. And I loved doing ballet. first position, second position, third position, all of those. I love doing that. Mm-hmm. But the part that bothered me was because I had to wear a unitard. So you had to see my scars. Mm-hmm. And so kids will come up and they're just inquisitive, like they just don't know. They weren't necessarily trying to be mean to me, but they would ask like, hey, what's that? Or, what happened to you? What's going on? What is that? And when you're a kid, you just want to fit in. You just want to fit in with the crowd. You just want to be normal, quote unquote. And so for me, I didn't like the attention. Mm-hmm. I did not want anyone to see my scars. And I asked my teacher if I could wear a t-shirt over my unitard. And she was just very strict. And she said, no, I'm sorry. So I wound up quitting. Dance class. You know, I asked my mom to ask her. She was just not going to be flexible. So I left dance class. Growing up, you know, during adolescence was very, very tough because at first, you know, when you're like 10 or 11 years old, it's not a big deal what you wear. But by the time you're 12, 13, 14, you start, you know, girls are getting cleavage. They're wearing V-neck shirts. They're wearing tank tops. They're looking really cute with the dresses. And I wanted to wear those things, but I couldn't. You know, I didn't feel like I could because those things would show my scar. And I wasn't in a space for them to show my scar. And, you know, I didn't feel feminine. I didn't feel beautiful. And then I also don't have cleavage because my scar, you know, is in between my breasts. And so it was one of those things where I was just like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. And so I just kept covering. And by the time I got to high school, you know, you have your first boyfriend and you want to make out. But making out with me, I always said, was kind of like playing a game of Twister. Like, okay, you can kiss me right here, but not here. You can kiss me right here, but not here. You know, it was that kind of thing. You know, so, and that went on into my early 20s. That went on until I was 25.
Wow, we're going to talk about 25. I'm still trying to work with this little 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old. And I just want to know, and believe me, this is not a way of pointing fingers or placing blame on anyone. But I know if something like that happened to my child, in the future, I would never let them out of my sight. Did your mother become more protective or even overprotective of you after this?
I can't say that she became more protective. I have to say, because I was actually in my father's care at the time. Pardon all of that going on. But yeah, I was in my father's care at the time. She's always kind of been protective of me. But I don't think it's necessarily because of that. I think that's just her nature. She's just that person that's just like, what you doing? Call me when you get home, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that because you were in your father's care or someone else's care at that time. See, I'm a parent. I'm a very protective parent. I'd be like, nope, I don't care what the law says. You're not going to your dad's, you know, like you're right here. I could watch you, keep your eye on you. We are learning so much. Again, if you are just now tuning in, we are speaking with Audra Bryant. She's telling us about her workshop, about her history, her story, her scars, and even being a stand-up comedian. And you know, I believe laughter heals. So I just want to welcome Tanya, Sherry, Rodney, everyone who's just now joining us. If you haven't shared this interview, please go ahead and share this interview. If you have questions or comments, please ask them in the comment section, and I'll go ahead and pass them along to our guests. Especially now, since we are talking about a woman who has gone through an incredible journey from being, was it third-degree burns, you said?
Yeah, they were third degree. Yeah.
Third-degree burns as a small child, and her struggle to even simply look at herself in the mirror. So you said that at 25, when things changed. So what was the defining moment at 25 years old where you said, it's probably hot. Let me take off this turtleneck. I'm in LA in the middle of July. You know, I don't need this turtleneck. So what happened?
Okay. That so for years, I would always pray. I would ask God, like, why would you allow this to happen to me? And you know that I want to sing, you know, I want to be in front of people, but I don't look perfect. What's going on? Why? So I asked that question for just years upon years. And then not until I was 25 did I have just a revelation out of nowhere. It was just like, Audra, everybody has scars. Mm-hmm. Some on the outside and some on the inside.
That's deep. That was deep.
And I was just like, wow. Because what I do know is that growing up, I was always a person that people kind of came to for advice. People would ask me like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I love to encourage people. I always love to encourage others, even though I was in a space, it's probably because I was in a space of needing encouragement myself. I love to encourage others. But one of the things that was very interesting to me after I got that revelation was, I was like, well, you know, I'm writing all these songs and so on and so forth. I want to encourage people. That's great, God, like, let's do this. And God is like looking at me like, girl, you won't even look at yourself in the mirror. So how are you going to encourage people to do anything? And I was just like, wow, that was like really huge for me. That was really huge for me. So.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question in the comments. Robert is asking, why not ask God, what would he have me do?
Well, that's what's happening now. Is, you know, that's why I had to, well, let me back it up a little bit. I do believe that there's a level of self-acceptance that you have to have first. Before you take on any mission, any walking in your purpose, I do believe you have to love yourself and you have to be confident in who God created you to be. And that was my issue, is that I had no confidence. I had to literally learn to look at myself in the mirror, like look at my scars in the mirror. And that took about a 6-7 month process just to look at my scars. So I couldn't go just from the revelation of everybody has scars, some on the outside, some on the inside. It took an additional amount of years for me to actually get to a space of full healing. I wrote a song called Scars, and I released that last year. I released it last year because I could not, like, I tried to write the song years before, 5 years ago, but it was a sad song. And this is not a sad situation. So sometimes you just have to catch up. Like, you have to wait until you're really ready, until you're really healed in order to be able to help someone else.
Amen. I love that. That was deep. Everything you're saying is deep. Some people have scars on the outside. Some people have scars on the inside, but we all have scars. So I want to talk about the time period that you mentioned of being able to actually look in the mirror. What was it like either the first time you attempted to look in the mirror, or what was it like when you finally, you know, got past all of those hangups and said, I'm me, you know, that's who I am?
Well, okay. So the first time I looked in the mirror, it was a quick glance, if I'm being honest. It was more like this. And then that was enough. That was enough for the day. And then I just increased it incrementally over a couple weeks. So the first, it was just a quick glance. Then it was a little linger. And then it was just, okay, a little longer. And finally I got to a place where I was able to actually look at my scars and say, oh, that actually kind of looks like a leaf. Oh, that actually kind of looks like this. I had to explore myself. I had to explore myself first and say, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, I'm okay with dealing with that. I can look at myself. And then my next, after a couple months of doing that and feeling more comfortable looking at myself, then I wanted to reveal myself to the world. So I was actually at my church choir's pool party.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I'd never worn a bathing suit without a t-shirt. So I bought my first two-piece bathing suit. And then I I walked out there without a t-shirt on. I was in the back, we were in the backyard of one of the choir members. And I told my friend, she knew all about it. It was a big, huge deal to me. And nobody knew that I was feeling the way I felt. They didn't know anything about it. And so next thing you know, I go out there, I'm like, oh my God, everybody's gonna look at me. They're gonna think that I look weird. I don't know. I was panicking, but I was still trying to be brave and still do it. And I got out there and nobody even said anything. They had nothing to say. I was like, what? Do y'all understand what is going on? What it took for me to do all of this? But yeah, it was smooth. It was no questions. No one really, and even when I ask people now who were there, what they say to me is, oh, I didn't even know you had an issue with your scars. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we see our scars a lot bigger than they really are.
Right. So you have built up to this entire event. You're going to get your little two-piece. You're not only going to walk out there, you're going to strut out there with your full confidence, and bam, here I am, and nobody notices. So it's almost anticlimactic, but it also has to do a lot for your self-esteem to be able to say, I did it, because it's not always about other people. It's about the things that we overcome internally. So you were able to overcome those things, which included wearing a t-shirt over your bathing suit or wearing a V-neck or a turtleneck, basically all year round. So you did that. Now we do have another question from Robert, thank you, Robert, for your participation and engagement in this live. But Robert says, I had that problem with writing my music, found out I had writer's block. What do you think about that? So I think that's in reference to when you were saying that you just wrote the song last year.
Mm-hmm. With regard to writer's block, I just feel with anything creative, it depends on, my process most of the time is just to allow it to flow. Mm-hmm. And if it's not flowing for some reason, then there's a reason for it not to flow in that moment. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to, I wanted to write the song Scars, but it felt like I had writer's block, but it was just really that it wasn't the right song. It wasn't the right energy behind it. So, when it comes to writing, because writing is you allow it to flow, but then there's also a level of discipline. Are you able to fully focus? Are you distracted, when you're in your creative space? Is your space safe enough for you to create? Because sometimes we're in a space where there's a lot going on, so I would examine those things. And then at the same time, it's what are you trying to say? Mm-hmm. In those moments, just, for me, it's I just flow through me, let it be a situation where it's just through me and not me just trying to overthink it.
Absolutely.
Allowing creativity.
And Robert says that's good. So he's definitely, supporting you. I definitely think that was a wonderful answer and supporting you. What I want to know is this. You went from your walk with your two-piece suit into what was your next phase? Is that when you decided to help more people? What did you decide to do next?
Then I had to, after showing my scars, I had to learn to live life with them out there. I had to live life with them showing. I had to buy some shirts, some V-neck shirts. I had to, all these things. I just had to learn how to live. I had to learn how to live in a space where I wasn't hiding myself. It was very different. It was a very different space. It was just okay, Like after you learn how to walk.
I hear what you're saying, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to, I guess, clarify that question. Is you did a lot of self-examination. That's clear. That's clear not only in what you said, but your energy. And I'm one of those people, I can look at a person's energy and say, okay, this is has positive vibes. They've grown through it. A person who's still emotionally attached to where they were. So you did a lot of growing. You did a whole lot of self-examination. But when did you take what you've learned? Because it's beautiful. You simply said it. Some people have scars on the inside. Some people have scars on the outside. When did you take that into creating your workshops or to focusing on other people?
Okay. So with that, I finally got to a space where my scars were not an issue. Showing them was not an issue. I was very confident in walking on stage with my scars out, singing my song. Like when I wrote the song Scars, I wrote that and then I would perform it. And people would actually come up to me after I would perform it and they would show me their scars. They would talk to me about their experiences. And I said to myself, okay, I can't just let this just be a song. It has to be more than just a song. So with that, I moved forward and I said, you know what? I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. 25 years of not looking at myself in the mirror, that is inappropriate. No, I don't want anyone to go through any of that. So I started writing a book. And I decided to write a book to help usher people through stuff, something that I would have desired when I was, 19 years old, when I was 20, 22, when I was going through that. So I wanted to write a book. So I started the process of writing a book, and we're looking at a release of that probably around the fall. But then I say, you know what? I don't want to just leave it at just a book because I want to help assist people in walking through this. Because my biggest thing is when I learn something, I want to teach somebody else because I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through. It's kind of like, why should anybody else suffer or, not live their life to the fullest if I can help it?
Oh, no, that's a very humble spirit. I really love it. And what's interesting to me is the way the mirror plays into your journey. For 25 years, you couldn't look in the mirror. Now, my personal journey after being divorced twice, being laid off over 7 times, losing everything, just having a lot of things that happened to me, I would go, and because I would feel like nobody understood me and that I was all alone. And I would go stand in front of the mirror and I would look at the mirror and I would say, Sharifah, I love you. And if nobody else in this world loves you, I love you and God loves you. And then I would go the next time and I would say, I love you and God loves you. Then I would say, well, your mom loves you and your dad loves you and your kids love you. Then the next time I would start adding people. And by the time I finished, a couple of months later or whatever, it was like this whole list of people who loved me, and it wasn't just the change in how many people I added. The change was in me, what resonated in me. When I first went to look in that mirror and really look at myself, I felt broken. I felt, down. I felt like I wasn't good enough. But then later, as I began to continue looking in the mirror, I just felt love. I felt loved. I really understood the amount of love that was surrounding me. So that's really my journey. And it's interesting to me how mirrors play a role or play a part in this whole journey. So again, if you are just now tuning into this interview, please definitely want you to go ahead and share this interview. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to ask comments in the comment section, we are here to we're here to answer your questions, but we're also here to share our personal journeys, our personal struggles. And I believe that Audra Bryant is just a wonderful woman for having the honesty and the, what's the word that I'm looking for? The vulnerability. I think that's what stands out to me the most in this interview is that Audra is just vulnerable. She's making herself vulnerable. She's making herself available to people who to people who may have been going through those struggles. So I like it. To me, that sounds like a book itself. Some people have scars on the outside. Some people have scars on the inside. And so we don't often know, which is which. And some people have scars in both places, on the inside, on the outside. And so what we're here to do, especially on Ask Sharifah, what I like to do is to bring guests to the show who are able to, through their own life stories, through their own struggles, through what they're going through, be able to help someone else. I mean, that's my focus, and that's what I am here to do. Now, today, we're going to continue with today's interview, but if anyone hasn't had an opportunity to go ahead and check out some of the interviews that I've already done, you will be amazed. When you visit AskSharifah.com and you click on the video interviews, we have discussed, yesterday we were discussing how to be an honest employer. We've had interviews with people who discuss, their books. We have so many great interviews that are lined up. And I just want everyone to be able to be a guest or have an opportunity to speak to and to sit with one of our guests and maybe share their journeys. Also, with that said, we just now added sponsorship opportunities to AskSharifah.com. So if you want to be a part of this video cast and you want to have your product, your service, your business in front of people, we can use this as an opportunity to do a brought to you by during an Ask Sharifah interview. But one of the things that I'm excited about, and I know Audra will agree, is my new book. I just released my new book, Signs You Might Be an Entrepreneur, How to Discover the Entrepreneur in You. And it is now available on AskSharifah.com, on Amazon, or Amazon Kindle, because what I'm here to do is I'm here to help people who want to be able to live, as they say, I think the phrase is these days, to be able to live their best life. So as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people interested in telling their story, I think that's my calling and my gift. So one of the things that I want to do is to let you know that this interview is brought to you by In the News PR. And In the News PR is my PR company. And so that's how I allow business owners, entrepreneurs, people who, singers like Audra, who are interested in getting their story out, to get it out further to the media at inthenewspr.com. But I want to go back to what you were saying, Audra, about being a stand-up comedian. How do you go from not being able to look at yourself in the mirror to making people laugh?
So, pardon all of that. But yes, how do you go from that? I've learned that you actually have to, comedy is really special because it allows you to look at the most ridiculous things in your life and learn to laugh at them. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, even the painful things that you've experienced can be hilarious. And I had no idea that I could laugh at the whole concept of laughing at your pain. That's what comedians do. At one portion of time, it was very painful and something you may not have ever wanted to speak about. But then after you've kind of stepped away from it for a little bit, you can kind of turn around and say, oh, it was a little hilarious that, I was wearing turtlenecks in 80-degree weather. That's hilarious.
You about to pass out.
Yeah, it's like, okay, would you rather show your scar or die of hypothermia? You know what I'm saying? Or die of sun, you're just, what are you doing? And so you look at your life and you start to say, oh, look at everything that I did to just escape being seen. Mm-hmm. And I believe that, honestly, I believe everybody has a certain level of that. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody, you bought the girl a Cadillac, brother, and you only knew her for 3 months. Mm-hmm. Now, if she takes off with the Cadillac and now you paying the car payment, that might not be the best thing for you to do. And one day you're going to look back and be like, that was a hot mess. She wasn't that cute. You know what I'm saying? And so it is okay. Mm-hmm. And it's okay because we all have those stories. That's the thing about it. And that's the beautiful part about comedy is that you're able to, you just change your perspective just a little bit. And then it feels better.
Yes. I'm over here going to church with you, Audra. I'm like, yes. You telling my story because you were giving out different instances, but I'll give you mine where I was like,
I want to hear your story.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you said you were telling me your story before got disconnected, so I want to definitely hear your story.
Well, yeah, I'm going on to what happened, and this is my time when I look back and I was like, Sharifah, okay. And the thing about it is the people who know me and who've been, since been my friends on social media for years, like you have to be like 2007 to really understand Sharifah Hardie's journey. But I had to laugh years later because what I will always do is I'm a kind of person who until recently would apply for jobs because I obviously needed money, and I would go to all kind of jobs and, and just whatever it was, it could have been like, the farmer who, it'd be a job opening for a farmer, somebody who's going to go and tend the soil. And I'd be like, look, $3,000 to tend the soil. Let me go apply for that job. They're like, Sharifah, you know how to tend soil? I know it's soil. I know that you put some stuff in it and you got to tend it, right? I know how to do that. And then I would do all these different job interviews, or I would share, like I go for this job interview and the person is like, oh, did you visit the website? I'm like, yeah. Well, what did you think of the company? Well, I think the company is the most amazing company there is because the things that you do are just wonderful. And being that you're wonderful, how could I not want to work for you? It's obvious to me. I have no idea what they do, where, what's going on their website. I need this job. And so over time, what would happen is I would just keep telling these stories. And it changed because initially, like seriously, when I started doing this, I really believed that I would do that job. Like I just figured I needed a job. I had to do it. But after a while, everybody knew, like, Sharifah, you are not about to do that. You are not about that. I'm like, what was I thinking? But it was funny. It's funny now, but then
that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And the cool part is you sharing that story reminds me of my first year in LA. I had 8 different W-2s at the end of the year. Like,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I don't even want, okay, should I tell my business? Oh, Lord, I tell you to tell my mama.
That's what we doing as
Oh, Lord. Okay, so my mama don't even know this, so don't tell my mama, okay?
I won't. Don't show it to her, though.
So one of my first jobs in LA when I first moved here, and I was young, I didn't know anything that was going on in LA. And I moved to the San Fernando Valley. And so I actually spent 2 weeks, I looked on Craigslist, I spent 2 weeks telemarketing porn. That's ridiculous. Like, really, Audra?
But you weren't doing porn. I mean, that's the most important thing.
I was on the phone saying, hey, you want these porn videos, sir? That's what I was saying. Like, hey, don't you want to, it's very discreet. They come in discreet packaging, sir. You see what I'm saying? Like, but you sharing your story, your experience connected with me because it made me look back to my experience. So now we have a shared experience and we can laugh at our shared experices together.
Absolutely.
I tell you.
I definitely agree. No, I definitely agree because it's funny because I was an Uber driver for 2 years, and with everything I've done, business consulting, different thing, and people would say, because they just want to know. People just nosy. They say, how did you become an Uber driver? And I always tell them, well, when I was looking for a job, I was going to go to the strip club or to Uber, and Uber called first. And they're like, I was like, if not for that email, I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know what I might have been doing, but you got to do what you got to do. Sorry, mama. Sorry, mama.
Oh, sorry, mama.
So we totally get it. And I would share these experiences with everyone. So it was hilarious. It was fun. So you do workshops. Can you tell us a little bit about your workshop, Audra?
Yes. So this workshop is entitled I've Got Scars, Baby. And in this workshop, the concept is really identifying identifying your scars. We got to uncover it first. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I'll say from my experience, I didn't look at myself in the mirror when I changed clothes. I didn't look at my scars, mm-hmm. but I didn't necessarily look at that as that strange, mm-hmm. if I'm being really honest. Because at the end of the day, what you do is you cope. You kind of deal with it, mm-hmm. and move through it, move through your day, and just you kind of deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we're functioning is in dysfunction. Mm-hmm. So the first part of it is just identifying what those scars are and creating a safe space for you to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to share. Yes. I share my story. And a lot of times when you share your own story, other people feel more comfortable sharing theirs. So we identify the scars, and then we look and see how they are actually affecting someone's life on a daily basis. Because 9 times out of 10, it's affecting your relationship with your family, with your significant other, with yourself. Mm-hmm. It's affecting your experience in your job, quite possibly. And I'll go back again, it's affecting your relationship with yourself. It could also affect your relationship with how you see God and how, mm-hmm. you see, like how you experience spirituality, whatever your spiritual walk is. So we got to talk about that. We have to bring that to the surface. And then, mm-hmm. once we bring those things to the surface, we're gonna talk about how to combat those things. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of it that really honestly is radical self-love. Mm-hmm. Like really serious, hardcore, I'ma love myself no matter what type of situation. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we're gonna go through techniques. I have a technique called sit-down comedy. Mm-hmm. And I teach people, because of my experience in stand-up comedy, like how to actually learn to change the perspective. Very simply, you don't actually have to go on stage somewhere. It'd be great if you do want to. I could give you a list of open mics to go to, but
I need that list.
We're going to learn how to do that, mm-hmm. in class, and we're going to talk about it. And then one of the most important steps that not most important, but one of the most enjoyable steps I feel like is learning how your scars can empower you. We're gonna talk about that, because the reason why I'm here talking to you right now is because I got burned when I was 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. And as much as I felt like it was the bane of my existence until I was 25, I'm learning now that, wow, this is assisting me in doing what I already wanted to do, and that's encourage other people. So a lot of times we kind of, we can look at our experiences, and it's not just about a physical scar. It's internal scars, all types of things. People have been through a lot in life, and we're going to encourage people and show you how to actually allow that to empower you in your life.
I love it. I'm still need that list though. I'm gonna need that open mic night comedy list.
Yes, girl. Yes, I'm gonna send it to you now.
I'm funny. It sounds funny, so I love that. So again, if you're just now tuning in, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. So I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to ask your questions. We had quite a few more people come into the chat room. Tanya, my cousin Vinny. So if you have any questions or comments, please ask your questions or comments, and I'll go ahead and ask them to today's guest, which is Audra Bryant. And Audra very, very vulnerably is sharing her story of having been burned, 3rd-degree burns, when she was 1.5 years old, how she wasn't able to look in the mirror until she was 25 years old, and how now she is using her struggle and her pain and her scars to be able to help other people, from her upcoming book to her current workshops and more. And one of the reasons I wanted everyone to be able to meet this amazing lady is she's going to be a panelist at the Power by Purpose tour, which is Saturday, May 4th. And you'll be able to ask her some questions, speak to her directly. But that event is at the LAX Marriott, and we have some powerful speakers. Sharifah Hardie is going to be there. Hey! little shout out, but Audra is joining us. So I said, you know what, Audra, we have to introduce you to the people so that they'll expect you and they'll know you when you're there on Saturday, May 4th. And if you want more information, please go ahead and visit that website, which is the powerbypurposetour.com, powerbypurposetour.com. Welcome to Val. Thank you for joining us. She says, I'm amazing girl, or you're amazing girl. I don't know, but I think we're both amazing. So we're going to take that from Val, who is definitely amazing. Right. So again, if anyone has any questions or comments, we definitely want to jump in there. But I guess one of the things that stood out to me is that you obviously had to have a lot of life lessons. You know, my kids now are 22 and 25, and through their whole life, one of the life lessons I try to give them is life goes on. You know, sometimes we get stuck in these stories. We get stuck in these, you know, woe is me, or we get stuck in the this happened to me, or we get stuck in a certain situation. What are some of the life lessons that you learned through this incredible journey?
Great question. I learned that self-love is not optional. It is critical. It is critical for your success. If you do not see yourself as incredible, as dynamic, as unique, as beautiful, as powerful, as if you're not confident in who you are, then you're not going to, life is not going to be, you know, a beautiful path for you. It just won't, because then you'll attract into your life people that will abuse you. You can attract disease just because your mindset is not in a space of self-love and self-compassion. Like it's just a hard road. It was a hard road because every day I just woke up not feeling like I was enough. And so love yourself. And when I say love yourself, I don't mean that in a sense of don't care about anybody else, be selfish. I don't mean any of that. I mean, it is critical and crucial for you to love yourself and accept yourself, flaws and all, because sometimes technically my scar, as much as I considered it a flaw, it's just a part of my story. And so it's not being selfish, but it's just like, hey, I gotta love me, and loving me allows me to love you better. It allows me to love you purely and truly. So yeah, that's the number one lesson.
When you were younger, especially seeing that you couldn't look yourself in the mirror until you were 25, did your scars feel like the elephant in the room, where anytime you walked into a room, you just automatically felt they're staring at me and my scars, whether they were visible or not? And then after 25, and after you got past that period of not being able to look in the mirror or feeling a certain way, did you still have that feeling that everyone's noticing the scars? Or now do you go out and then sometimes even forget, you know, that you have scars and just, you know, put it out of your mind?
So absolutely, up until 25, I would go out and walk in any room, and if my scars showed even a little bit, it was a problem for me. That was my thing. It was always in the back of my mind. I hope my shirt doesn't fall too low. I hope this doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't happen. It was the worst. It was just paranoia. After 25, it actually started to become my scar in a way, almost became almost a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. It became, if you're not comfortable with it, if I walked into a space and not that I would normally ever catch anybody like kind of, you know, giving me the side eye or looking at me strangely, but if I ever did, and I'm sure I have seen it, but I don't care because I fought so hard. I worked so hard to accept myself that honestly, if somebody else has a problem with my scar, if they don't see the beauty in the person that I am, if they don't see me and they can't see past the scar, then they don't need to be in my space anyway, you know, and that's okay. Like, no hard feelings, blessings and peace to them. But how they think about me at this point is none of my business, because it's my job to love myself. And I work so hard. Like, I've had surgeries, I've had needles like stuck into my scar, I've had acid put on my scar to reduce it. I'm done. I'm done. I have paid the cost to be the boss, to accept myself. And that's all I need.
Now, let me just ask you this, and this question is not a judgment in any form or fashion. I'm just nosy as hell, and I like to ask whatever I want to know. But was there ever a point where you just hit sheer gratitude, where you said, you know, it really could have been worse? I mean, because you mentioned your scars and, you know, where they are, but your face is beautiful. I mean, I don't know if that's because it's now, and maybe, you know, you said you had the surgeries, but to me, it just feels like it could have been so much worse. And I don't say that to make light of what you do have, though.
No. That's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up, because actually the coffee got on my face, but it didn't scar my face. So I'm very, very grateful. So it got on my face, but it only scarred my neck and shoulder and so forth. And so it absolutely could have been worse. And I have definitely thought about that. And when I was 2 years old and I had my first surgery, I remember waking up in the surgery suite, and I was bandaged. My whole left side was bandaged. And I remember there was another little girl in the hospital bed next to me. She was a little blonde girl, but her whole face was burned. She was probably in a house fire. But I just remember, even at 2 years old, even as a baby, well, I might have been 2, 3, 4, maybe around there, but little girl. And I looked at her and I said to myself, she's going to have a hard life. And I was just like, wow, I saw that it was so much worse than mine. But what happens, though, is that with scars of any kind, somebody could have gotten a scar the size of a grain of rice, and they feel horrible about themselves. So I just know that with any person, no matter what they've experienced, whether it's homelessness, whether it's they lost a job, or whether it's, you know, God forbid, they've been raped. It's one of those things where it doesn't matter the severity. It could have been somebody, oh, my dad didn't say he loved me today. He scarred me. I don't ever want to look at anybody's scar as like big or small or whatever. I just want to address the perspective. And, you know, and I think at the end of the day, perspective is all that we have. So, yeah.
No, I think that's a wonderful answer. Kudos. I definitely agree, because I remember being homeless and losing everything that I had and living in the motel. But I was so grateful, because I'd be walking down the street and I see a homeless person sleeping on the ground, and I would say, there for the grace of God go I. You know what I mean? So in everything that I was going through, he has still shown me grace. And so I can completely understand, you know, people definitely have it better. People definitely have it worse. But the key is to learn how to love yourself. So I think it's amazing. We are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I like to do at the end of every show is just allow my guests the opportunity to just speak directly to the people here watching live, as well as the people who see it in the archive, and let them know what you want them to take away from your interview.
Well, I just want everyone to know that you are worthy of living the life that you desire to live. And a lot of times, you know, when you're born, there's just like, you're babies. Like, when you think about babies, they're just happy just to be breathing. They're just, you know, there's energy there. They're smiling. You know, if they cry, you know, the next minute they're smiling again. And what happens is that life sometimes puts, like, just stuff happens. Like, somebody might have been abandoned. Somebody might have had this happen or that happen. Like, the world starts to put stuff on you. And unfortunately, we start to believe what the world says about us. But the truth is that you are amazing. You're an amazing child of God. and you deserve to feel free and feel good and to move about life in a way that is confident and strong and passionate, and enjoy your experience and assist others and help others, but loving yourself, taking care of your family, all these great things. If there is a scar, if there's something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you're just not, you're not feeling the joy, you're not walking in your purpose, but you know it's a barrier. Get the help that you need. Get assistance with that. Do not be embarrassed to go to therapy. Do not be embarrassed to go to a life coach. Don't be embarrassed to speak with a friend about whatever's going on. Don't be afraid to do those things, because it's important. Like, your life is important. If you you'll go to the gym and work your body out, but what about your mind? What about your heart? You know, those things are crucial to your success in anything that you do. So, you know, I definitely, if you are interested, I would love for you to be a part of my workshop. I've got scars, baby. Let's talk. You can go to my website. My website is audrabryant.com/workshop. And you can get all the information for the workshop there. So that's audrabryant.com/workshop. And yeah, it starts April 20th. You know, you can also follow me on Instagram, Audra A. Bryant, AudraABryant, Audra A. Bryant. And that's on all social media platforms. And let's heal. Healing is the new black, okay? Like, let's get it and be happy.
I love it. I love it. She said, let's heal. I like that. I think that's a show, a book, or something. Let's heal. I always say, let's talk. You know, that's my thing. Let's talk. I love to talk. I love to sit down and talk to people. So let's heal. And Tanya says, what a great testimony.
Oh, thank you, Tanya.
Yes. So I want to thank you, Audra, for being a guest on today's episode of Ask Sharifah.
Thank you so much, Sharifah. I appreciate you. Blessings.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. And to everyone who listened to this interview live, everyone who's watching in the archive, thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I ask that you go ahead and share this video, because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. And if you're interested in being a guest, interested in sponsorship opportunities, or you just want to check out more of my videos, please visit the website at AskSharifah.com. Until then, everyone have a wonderful day.